today's culture climate, as Gen X's, we often hear that traditional values are fading, and they are being replaced by speed, surface, and self-promotion. But what happens when you meet someone who quietly embodies depth, discipline, emotional intelligence, and grace? Today, I'm introducing to the world a young American woman raised in the modern world, yet grounded in classical values we rarely see reflected today in the U.S. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Chatting with Slava the Jordanian. I'm your host, STJ, as a lot of you guys know me on social media. Today is a very special episode because I get to interview Taylor. I have known Taylor since she was 6 years old through dentistry. Taylor now married. She's a mom. The purpose of this episode is to hopefully show you guys and let you be the judge of our relationship. How somebody, Gen X, born and raised in Saudi Arabia, half Palestinian, half Jordanian, landed in the United States in 1988, way before even Taylor was an idea, and then ended up crossing paths with Taylor as a child, and now she is the VP of my brand and my operation, and I could not have been more grateful and much more thankful for the divine bringing her back into my life. So how does that work? We want to analyze how a Gen Z and a Gen X end up crossing paths and creating this unique relationship here in the United States. When I left everything I know and everybody I love in my home world, coming to the new world, and like I said, having a relationship or a connection with somebody like Taylor, how is Taylor as a Gen Z keeps those values and maintain her belief system intact to pass it on. We call that transfer of power to the new generation, which her new baby, to carry on that tradition and custom. So, welcome, Taylor. Thank you so much for coming on. I know how busy you are from the work and other aspects, so I really, really appreciate you coming in and collaborating, contributing, supporting us in our season 2 of Chatting with Slava the Jordanian. So, just to help me understand as a Gen X, sociological studies show that your generation emphasize so much on meaning and purpose in life. And my question to you is, how do you use that reflecting in your own life and in your choices, the choices that you make every single day?
Every choice involves so many people. So I can make unilateral decisions for myself or choices, but at the end of the day, it needs to positively impact the people around me too, whether that's in a business sense or at home, right? I could sit on the couch and watch TV and just kind of relax, or I could make sure the house is cleaned up, or, dinner's made, laundry's folded. At work, it's make sure that I can jump in and help my team when they need something. So the decisions that I feel like I make are just so non-unilateral. They're for the people around me for the most part. I'm human. I make decisions for myself all the time too. But for the most part, I feel like my main decisions, actions, things that I choose to do are just for everyone around me and how that works and how it serves other people. And I've found that it's been beneficial for me and those around me too. So I think it helps different relationships when you're able to not just act on your own behalf, but on behalf of whatever team you're in at the time.
Right now, you do have 2 teams, right? You have the work team and you created your own family. So take us back. Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in New England? You were born and raised in New England, right?
Yeah.
Who was the most influential figure in your life? I know you were surrounded by very strong women, if I'm not mistaken. And that's apparent in the product they ended up producing, which is you. Very, very strong female. It has nothing to do with, you're very, very intellect and smart. Not because I'm not trying to be biased. I'm partial to Taylor. Yes, I know, but also I'm impartial when I do these episodes. But can you just give us some kind of a background, how growing up from an influential point of view, how did you end up like that? Because I always tell you that, Taylor, you are your mom's daughter, right? Because I know your mom. So there's a lot of things that, of course, when you were younger, when I met you 6 years old, I did not see the parallels, right? Between you and your mom. But now as a grown woman, again, married, now we have a responsibility of a child, raising the next generation. I can see your mom in so many different situations. And it's not a bad thing. That's a great thing, because I respect your mom and I adore her and I admire her in many, many aspects. And God knows that her journey it was very, very challenging, but very rewarding. And I can't think of anybody that can go through her journey if it was not as strong as your mom. So that's where my admiration stems from. And as I was standing on the sideline watching her going through her life, cheering her on, I wasn't really involved, just watching her, picking up the pieces and moving forward, picking up a piece and moving forward. I really have a lot of respect, and you know that for her. So were there other than your mom, where that strength and tenacity and maintaining the or embodying that depth and discipline and your high emotional intelligence comes from?
Definitely from her. She's very resilient. Always has been. She's always been the breadwinner. She's always been emotionally evolved. She's been hardworking. We never knew what it was like to go without because of her. In all senses, not just monetary or materialistic things. It was really just, we may not have had one parent show up, but she was there. Even working full time and having 2 kids, and my brother's a whole different story. But it was to see a strong, independent woman who didn't need to be, she didn't want to be, but to see that was definitely something. My husband and I will often talk about how I am very much like my mom. You and I talk about it a lot. There are a lot of similarities. I have gotten a lot of my tendencies from her, including some of my more type A. I like to clean. I like things a certain way. That's kind of carried over into my personality at work too. I like things done a certain way. And I have high expectations of people because I was always held to a high standard. But that's only because I've seen it done. I've witnessed it. I saw it. It's not always fun as a kid to have your mom believe in you. You're like, this is hard though. But to do it and to see that, and seeing her as a mom, and even now as a grandparent, she has 6 grandchildren. 5.5. She, again, just embodies the role, and she's just someone I look up to, and who I have a lot of characteristics like her, both work-wise and at home life-wise.
No, I mean, I agree with you 100%, because like you said, we talk a lot about it. It's almost, we end up with comparison sessions all the time. And it fascinates me how somebody like your mom that's really strong can produce another strong female, because it can go either way, right? It can be really strong or very, very codependent on your mom, and I can't do this on my own. But she really managed to produce somebody that I'm here for. It's almost like tough love. And because I think the Gen X is there, by the way, just for our audience of viewers and listeners, and even for you, there are 2 types of Gen X's. And I think my generation was too extreme, either really rigid and stringent on, do it, discipline, all that, or very, very lenient, because they didn't want to be like the baby boomers kind of thing, generation. But it's with her, I feel like it was really a tough love. But where does your belief system stems from? Was there in your household multi-generational figures that really impacted your belief system? Because I consider your belief system very classical. It's traditional, but it's not very backwards traditional. Like you're almost like a hybrid between, like I said, the more modern world, but also there's a lot of classical grace about you, and there's a lot of classical values about you that's very, very rare to find in the Gen Z generation. Can you think of, like, why is that? Where do you get that from?
So I'll say, like, in terms of like the tough love. So my mom kind of had to adapt to that. I come from a split home. It started right around the time that you met me. I think you might have met my dad like once or twice, but the my mom had no option but to do tough love, because when we went to our dad's house, anything was fair game. And a lot of times that came to, by the time we got back to our main home, which was 95% of the time, there was a lot of things that my mom had to undo. A lot of things that it wasn't the fun thing to have Lucky Charms for dinner 4 nights in a row, but it was, we had to have a balanced diet. And so there were it was more tough love with her because she had to, because it's hard to always be the strict parent, but we had to have some kind of solid ground to stand on, because rules do exist in the real world, and it's fine to not have them sometimes, but for the most part, we had to have them. And a lot of that comes from her mom, and I will say that was a very challenging relationship. But my grandmother was a single parent for a very long time. My mom faced adversity going from down south and then moving up to Massachusetts with a southern accent, and she wasn't always, well received by that, and she faced adversity, and so she had to deal with it, and in a very different way than many others have, but it's still something that she shouldn't have had to go through. It made her stronger. It made her able to deal with that. And there are many things that I know my mom is not fond of from, every generation tries to be better than the last, right? So to say that her mother was perfect would be a lie. I would love to say my mom was perfect, but she was a human being. She made mistakes too. And so my grandmother was very active in our lives for a very long time. And so we did have some of that traditional, but again, just single mom. My mom was a single mom too. She remarried at one point, but again, she was the breadwinner. She was the decision maker. She was head of household, and that's kind of, she was led by a strong, independent woman, and she created a strong, independent woman, and that's what I'm trying to do with my daughter, and just kind of perfect the process a little bit more each time you go down. And again, I know my daughter won't say I'm a perfect mom, but hopefully better childhood than I had, and I had a good childhood. So
yeah, it sounds like there is a lot of impactful female matriarchs in your growing up, the way you were raised, and it might be that Southern flair, that the traditional value, but it's not easy. I have to tell you, migration or immigration, you are displacing yourself. It's almost like you displace yourself and you sentence yourself into exile, away from everything that you know, and it's not easy. And you can't imagine not speaking the language. I mean, your grandmother just had an accent, but it is a whole different world, the South compared to New England too. So I'm sure she had to adapt and go through what we call the identity confusion. You get lost. You get lost in translation. Part of you want a better life for your grandmother, want a better life for your mom. And part of it is, okay, how about me? Like, I'm going to get lost. I know my daughter's going to have a better future, but look at you now. Now your daughter has probably a much more elevated quality of life, because what your grandmother have started when she made that decision to displace herself away from everything and to have a better life. I know your mom was probably on her mind and that was the goal, but I think she was looking even further into the future, that my grandkids and my great grandkids, I got to do something for that to last, like a multi-generational kind of stability. And that's not really easy to do. It's really, really hard. Now, going back to being a Gen Z, why do you think our relationship works between me and you?
We're very similar. We're very similar. We like things a certain way. I feel like we've known each other for so long that we know what the other needs before it happens. So it makes it a little bit easier. Even at something as simple as designing business cards. I'll see something, I'm like, she's not going to like that. Let's just redo this. I'm not even going to show her this. She's not even going to like it. And just having an understanding of the other, how they work, kind of how their mind works. The same way with eHub, we work well together. The two of you obviously work well together. So it's certainly helpful to know the other person, and a lot of that is effort. It's not like something I just happen to be super good at and just know you. It takes effort. It takes the communication that we have back and forth. And so I think there are plenty of times where you're like, you're the exception to the rule about Gen Z, but it's because of how we communicate and the effort that we put into the relationships that we have. And I think that it matters, because if we didn't, we may not be here right now. So I think that communication is always just the biggest.
Absolutely. I think you are a great communicator because of your high level emotional intelligence, and high level of self-awareness and social awareness is amazing. And I think, like I said, having a strong female matriarch in your life, you gain that, because we talked about this a lot. We discussed different personalities that we work with or we encounter, or just in our family, in our lives. And you tell me, you think like you're an old soul. Is like, I would never do that. Like I would have done it so differently. But also you cheated because you have known me through your mom's eyes. And I'm sure that, your mom, I spend a lot, when your mom comes in and visits me as a patient, 10% of the time we're doing dentistry, 90% of the time we're talking about life. So we got to really to know each other through you guys, through the kids, through her life, through her work. And her achievement in all her, promotions and her professionalism and all that. But also on the flip side, you got to see me through your mom's lens. And then as you became independent to create your own decision and make your own impressions of other people, you got to know me also as an adult. That was really hard for me to switch because, every time I look at you, I'm still seeing Taylor, the 6-year-old, but also when you start talking and you start expressing yourself, or I see you performing in meetings or just, grasping on new concepts and training on them, or tackling just conflict or challenges at work, I'm seeing you in a whole different lens. I'm learning about the Taylor that I never knew, like a 6-year-old and 12-year-old and then high school and all that. Because, and I'm so grateful for that. Honestly, I'm very grateful and very thankful that I get to see you evolve in that way. Not only survive everything you guys survived, you and your mom and your brother, but also really, really thrive. Like when I see your brother's kids, I just melt. I see him in each one of them. And it's crazy. And that's the reason why I met you. Is I think your brother brought everybody because he needed my help initially. So it always impresses me that we're whole two different worlds, absolutely two different worlds, two different generations, two different cultures. English is not my first language, but yet it is possible for both of us to continue building up the relationship. When I get together with you, your husband now is part of our world now. Your daughter is part of our world now. So not only it's only Taylor, also part of my world is your own world that you have created. And now I'm mingling with that. And it's just fascinating. Wait until you enjoy it as it lasts. But when your daughter start even creating friends, and it's like, oh my gosh, she has like a circle of friends, and you get to see her through them, how they talk about her, what kind of relationship they have with her. It's like, oh my God, it's our daughter. So it's another aspect, because you guys are multifaceted, right? It's another aspect of her personality. She's not going to act with you like she'll act in school or with her friends or her teachers and stuff like that. So it always fascinating. All right, let's move on, because I'm getting a little bit emotional now. How do you cultivate that deep self-awareness in this world of social media? I always wanted to ask you guys, how do you guys, we are social media as we speak. I mean, we're taping a podcast that's going to be on Spotify and Apple and on YouTube. How do you guys, or how somebody like you specifically, let's start with that, maintain that self-awareness or social awareness with the craziness of social media?
I think that's very challenging. That's actually something that I struggle with, like what the balance is. Social media right now is just hard in general. Everything is just so attainable. I think it's hard to be self-aware when you can immediately see like snippets of somebody's life. And again, there's snippets of someone's life. It's seconds at a time or minutes at a time of a 24-hour section. And it's hard to be in that mode where there's always been the comparison of different people in general, right? Now you have social media where everything is at your fingertips. You can access this person's past, however long they've been posting or how often they post. It's definitely, it's challenging. I think that self-awareness is just, I don't know, I think it just comes down to like figuring out who you are, what you are wanting to be in all aspects of that, and trying your hardest to maintain that. I don't want a portion of me on social media to be different than who I am in real life. I mean, obviously I'm a little bit more polished on social media, I think, than on a regular day at the grocery store. But I think it all just comes down to like how I was raised and what my morals are, and kind of trying to be authentic in that way. And again, I hope no one like sees this and calls me out like, oh, this was a staged photo. So I think it's a challenge every day. But just trying to be who I am, who I want my daughter to see me as. There was a time when I said to my husband, "Oh, isn't this a really cute like maternity photo?" He said, "You're not posting that. That's not who you are. You can post that in like in our house somewhere where like our closest friends and family can see that. But do you want your daughter to recreate this in 15, 20 years?" And I was like, "No, never." Okay. So it's just kind of like, what role do I want to, what do I want her to be, and what do I want her to look up to? And it can't be, don't do what mom does. Do what mom says. It has to be like lead by example. I'd say that like kind of goes over onto the team, not to bring it back to work, but to the team too. You can't ask someone to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. And I know that you know that because you often do that. So trying to be who I am and be a good example for my daughter and other kids too. I mean, just it's hard as a woman. You're looking at these pictures, you're like, oh, I wish I could have X, Y, or Z, right? From someone that you see, but how much of that is true? How much of that is authentic? And just I don't know, trying to keep it.
No, I mean, trying to keep it real, and that's the old saying, just keep it real, right? And in the ability and the talent to separate what's real, what's not, I mean, it's social media is fun or whatever. For me, it's like looking through a catalog. What's before your time, paper catalogs that we used to get through the mail, and
I've seen them
and flip through them, right? And it's like, oh my God, I wish I have her looks or her life or whatever. It's the same thing, social media. But the scary thing about social media, how fast it actually, we absorb the information. For you to flip through a catalog, it takes a manual labor, and you can always put it down and just toss it across the room or on the couch, whatever, and just walk away from it. But social media, because it's digital, right? It really messes up with your with your sight, with your image, the optics, your neuroplasticity, I call it, and we need to remember that you are an auntie before you became a mom. So also, it sounds like, having the next generation, the new generation, helped you think twice about, okay, do I want that out there for even my nephews before you had your daughter, your nephews to find it one day, at 20, 25 years old, it's like, whoa, that was my aunt, that kind of thing. But let's go backwards. So if you, earlier in life, you would have some post without thinking of who's the part of the family is going to look at it, or regardless, you think that with time, that mindset would have changed on your part? Or is it just because now you have nephews and you have a daughter?
I think it would have changed. I think it's just like growing up too, being aware of like, not everybody needs to know every single aspect of your mind, of your thoughts. And I don't know if you get this as well, but sometimes like Facebook will be like, oh, remember this day like 13 years ago? And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I posted that. That's so embarrassing. Like the secondhand embarrassment of like, why did I post that? I think it's just, I think it would have happened eventually. But it just, I don't know, I've always been, but it's also how I was raised to, not share too much with the outside world, not, you don't know everybody. Not everybody has the best intentions. Not everybody will take you just being kind and sharing, at face value. Sometimes they can use it against you, or, it can backfire. You give someone a little bit too much information and then your secrets are out to the rest of the world. And so we've always been kind of a private family. Our garage actually hits up against right across the street to another garage. And if we yelled in the driveway, it's like, hey, they can hear you. Just kind of being mindful, and that self-awareness was instilled in us from a very early age. So my brother and I are kind of mindful about what we post on social media, and the kids have plenty to do with it, but it was always something that we were aware of. That social media is forever. You can't take it back.
No, don't get me wrong. It's like a double-edged sword, right? Just like everything else, right? I mean, eating, drinking, alcohol, working out too much, sleeping too much, eating, it's the same thing, right? So if you abuse it or you play upon it so much, it's going to work against you. It's nice to have social media, because honestly, I don't know what I would do if I don't have the access to social media like WhatsApp. For me to stay in touch with Ehab's family in Egypt, that's an amazing tool. Like his uncle is 77 years old, and he is on social media and Facebook. And every time Ehab posts something, we're out or we're in Florida, whatever, he makes a comment. He wants to see our faces. You know what I'm saying? Because he does not have the time nor the means to do FaceTime. He has to have his son come over, do FaceTime, and then we can communicate and we can see his face. And it's the old fashioned, I need to see your face to make sure, I don't trust pictures, and I don't trust, phone calls. Seeing your face is very much authentic as proof that you are okay. So you have to respect that for that generation. And social media does an amazing job with that. Keeps us connected for sure, but with limitation. It has to be regulated as much as possible in order for not to fall into that, I call it that kind of addiction of I only can be on social media. I know people that are on TikTok for 3-4 hours a day. I don't know what they're doing on TikTok. That's just mind numbing. So let's look at what are your concerns about the future for your generation? What do you and your husband, because you guys are the same age, right? Same class, high school, graduation class. So the same generation. What do you guys worry about? Because I don't want to share with you what Gen X is worried about, where it's just all doom and gloom right now. But what is it that you guys worry about, especially now you are parents and trying to hold on to, whether it is, retaining those traditional values, retaining within, like I said, the modern world?
So I think it's difficult. We want to create a kind human, and it's sometimes increasingly difficult in a world that is incredibly unkind to each other. And it's hard when social media exists. It's great for some things, right? It's entertaining. It's quick communication with people who you may not see all the time, but it also creates a false narrative for kids. I don't think that kids should have social media, which I don't know if you've seen this. We've posted our daughter last on social media. The world can be unkind, and I think that's kind of a challenge and a fear. Is like, how do you raise a kind, well-rounded human being in a world that is just sometimes not? And sometimes it's on social media. Actually, most of the time on social media, you could click on anybody's comments and you could see someone posting like this beautiful picture of their life, and it's like negative comment or negative comment. And I get that that's going to exist wherever you go, but subjecting yourself to a negative comment, or like, how do you deal with it after, when you may not have deserved it? Or how do you teach kids to be kind if they're not seeing kindness themselves? And so it's easy because she's so young right now. But trying to lead by example is obviously it's hard. Everyone has opinions. Everybody has imperfect moments, but wanting to create this like perfect world for a child and make sure, like, as I'm sure you guys wanted to do, and the generation before you wanted to do, just how can we make everything better? And I think that's just, it's a challenge because we want her to have this like incredible life, but it's hard to do because you can only control so many things, right? Like, I can make sure she has great dental care. I can make sure that she has a nice home to live in, but everything outside of that is just outside factors that you just hope that the world is kind. It's actually, I posted something like that when I was coming back from maternity leave, for like asking the world to be kind to her because she's the greatest thing I've ever done, right? And so it's, how do you just create a kind person? Because smart can come, right? I'm not worried about her being smart. She's perfectly smart. Every person thinks that their kid is the smartest person in the world. But how do you make sure that they're going to go up to someone and help them and be the type of person that you want them to be in this world, and be a good parent, spouse, leader? Like, that's the challenge, right? In a world that continues to show you that it's hard. How do you do that? So I think that communicatively between my husband and I, that's the challenge. And like, I like myself and my husband, we're great people, but creating another person that's like that, or instilling those values. There were plenty of times that my mom was trying to do that, and I was rebelling because I was like, why am I going to listen to you? I got to find it out my own way. And I'm sure that was incredibly difficult for her to watch when she's like, no, I've tried that. Please don't do that. It doesn't work like that. So how do you just like create this person and send them off into the world and hope that they do incredible things, and that they are kind, that they don't leave negative comments on someone's social media? Because I was raised, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But that seems to have missed a few steps, or a few people. And so,
don't be hard on yourself. You did fine.
It's just
you did fine. I do not accept any criticism, nor by you or by anybody else at this moment. No, I'm just kidding. It is hard. It is, honestly, I mean, I think part of it, and I'm glad that you guys stayed local around your mom, because I think if I were you, I would just draw as much as possible from your mom, because I think she's a wealth of resources. Because you have a proven, a living proof that she did something right with you and your brother, and that you transfer that power to your nephews. Now you transfer that power to your daughter, and having your husband, he's an amazing human being, next to you as a partner. I'm not worried. I'm just seeing it. Like I said, I'm an outsider. Remember, I'm on the sidelines. Just like I saw you with your mom through you guys' challenges, social, family dynamics, career, accident, all that stuff. You guys still, you survived it, and you thrived it, and look at you now. So I'm not worried in a sense that, I agree with you. You guys are going to do an amazing job. I'm worried about the world around her not triggering her to dysregulate what she learned from you guys. Because dysregulation is okay every now and then, but the world right now is charged. And hopefully by the time she's aware that there's a world out there, humanity is just going to have a full, like a facelift kind of thing, so and that's what I worry about when I see her. I was like, oh, what kind of world is she's going to have to deal with? But as long as you guys empower her with the right tools, empower her with the, with the right manners, and it's like, okay, you know what to do, that kind of thing. And I agree with you. My mom taught me the same thing. If you have nothing to say, and nothing nice to say, just say nothing. And I'm like, but Mom, it's so hard. She used to tell me, I don't care if you bite your tongue and swallow the blood. Do not open your mouth. But that's what we call about tough love, She's as sweet as pie right now because she has dementia. She's 85 years old. But she was tough on us. She was very, very tough. She was a disciplinary, not my dad. And I was one of 5. So plus she was a teacher. So I think that's the reason why I was so attracted to your mom, because she reminds me of my mom and how I grew up. And it's funny, like I said, we're completely different worlds, but I guess our energy just brought us together. The, force of attraction, brought us together. And that's what attracted to me as far as your mom's personality. But your daughter, I think she's going to be fine. Hopefully the world, like I said, by the time she realizes there's an outside world, outside her realm, and it'll be a much kinder world. Do you guys really make sure that the older generations are around her to influence her and influence her upbringing, or you guys try just to do it more like a micro parenting, just you and your husband?
So she has a lot of influence from everybody else. She sees her family. She sees, actually probably multiple times a week, she sees her grandparents, at least one of them. She sees her grandparents on the other side very often, her uncles, like every week. So she has the influence of everybody else. She's still so young right now that she probably doesn't even notice or recognize. But my husband grew up where he spent a lot of time with his aunts and uncles. He was just like kind of hot potatoed around to different family members, because there were 3 of them, 3 boys, and they were a lot. And so they just spent time with different family members. And that's something that we definitely want her to experience, is some time individualized away from her parents, away from, what is her normal, and experiencing different things. And definitely spending a lot of her time with us, but still being able to have those experiences with different family members, the different perspectives. It is helpful. I see a lot of my husband's uncle in him more than some of his other family members, just because of their mannerisms, their demeanor, their personality traits. He
must
kind of
be a really nice guy, because your husband is amazing. I just love talking to him. He has that classical look too, and just a classical energy and persona. From the 1950s kids, I call them, that, and I say they don't make them the same no more, but it's very classical, masculine, presence about him that, and sometimes I'll talk to him, socially, and he's just watching people, and I can hear him thinking, it's like, this is not good. I don't agree with that. But he's socializing with me, he's vocalizing his opinion, but I can see him just processing, the world around him. And that gives me, confidence that, wow, he's definitely going to be an amazing dad. And like I said, and I'm not worried about your daughter figuring out what's right, what's wrong. She's going to have that. She's going to have that constituted into her, inner self, as long as you guys build on that as far as a tool to find out, okay, I can use that tool to get me through this. I can use that tool to get me through that. It's funny you said a kind world, because being in Egypt in 2025, it's amazing how that part of the world managed to sustain and maintain that balance between, ancient values. We're talking thousands and thousands of years of values in the modern world with just a modern twist on it. But it's very, very subtle, very delicate, without like in your face kind of thing. When we used to go out to restaurants, kids are not on their iPad. They don't have phones. Every now and then, that's really rare and also frowned upon. Right now, I mean, I'm talking about a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, where here in the United States is so sad. I go out in a restaurant, nobody's talking to anybody. Everybody's on their phone or here have an iPad because mom got to talk or dad got to talk. But over there, kids are running around, the restaurant or whatever, the courtyard of the restaurant playing. They're talking to other kids or strangers or whatever. They're making friends. When adults are talking. The kids are not interfering. They're not nagging. They're not whining. They're not demanding attention from their parents. They know it's like the adults are talking, just back off basically and get busy with something. And they eat everything. I haven't seen anybody like even in the menu, there's no like chicken nuggets or just French fries. They just eat anything. How is that possible? And the parents are your generation. They're Gen Zs, but they're Gen Zs over there, and they look modern. They look like, very westernized, very up to date with their fashion and their style. But when it comes down to it, I just watch him how they interact as a family. It's as if my parents are interacting with us. And I wish that United States here kind of embraces that. And it's okay, like I said, to be your style, your home, your, whatever, your fashion, how you carry yourself, your mindset, tolerance, acceptance, inclusivity. And that's huge in your generation too, but also keep that value belief system intact. But go ahead. You can come in.
No, it's wild because we feel the same way. We don't want to raise an iPad kid. We don't necessarily need our kids to be like not a part of the conversation, but knowing when like, hey, we're having a conversation. Can you wait a moment? Which we instill with the boys all the time. But it's like the instant gratification of the modern world, right? Like it's always like, how quickly can you satisfy that I'm bored? And my husband and I talk about it all the time. It's okay for her to be bored. And sometimes he's saying that to like reassure me because I'm like, oh, she's upset. And he's like, it's okay for her to be bored. Because what happens is she gets over it. She learns how to independently play a little bit longer. We don't offer her special meals. We offer her what we're eating. If she doesn't like it, let's see if we can change it a little bit to make it something that's more palatable for her. But I'm not saying we're not catering to our daughter. She lives a very, very great life. But it's also that our lifestyle has changed very minimally since having her because we want her to be an active part of society, not stuck with an iPad in her face and not being able to exist in the world. We went to Valentine's dinner. We decided to do lunch so she didn't ruin anybody's romantic evening. She's a little bit rowdy when she eats, as you guys have witnessed. And we sat down. There was a 10-year-old at the table next to us and had a phone interface the entire time. Our daughter was playing with crayons, hanging out. There were a bunch of TVs, so we had to keep like redirecting her a few times just to make sure she was not just watching TV, but the parents next to us were just chatting, but their kid had a phone in their face the whole time, had chicken nuggets off the meal. We ordered steak tips for our daughter to eat, and it's just what our normal diet is. And it's challenging because we see other parents, and you talked about my husband kind of looking around, and that's kind of what we talk about a lot, is seeing different things of like what we are seeing and what we either want to do or want to do differently. And raising a child that can be a part of a conversation, can be a part of just society in general, not with an iPad in their face, not, being a super picky eater, is important. And that's not super common nowadays. That's a more traditional kind of mindset of like, we want you to be able to be bored. It's okay sometimes. Would you like to play with some of these toys? Yes. And that's how it goes. And so it's challenging because people are like, oh, good luck with that, right? Because it's not the normal. It's been fine so far. She's pretty content. But it isn't the normal. It's more traditional. It's harder. But harder doesn't mean that it's impossible or that you can't do it. It's just a little bit more work.
But harder is more rewarding, Taylor, right? I mean, everything that's harder, it tastes better, right? Because it's like, aha, I achieved it and I got through it, and now we're fine. And you tapped into so many different aspects. One of them is, you have to feel it to heal it, right? She has to feel bored in order. She said, okay, what am I going to do about it? That gives her a mindset of more creative how to take care of herself. Like you said, a child needs to soothe itself. Don't be like the helicopters, like, oh my God, what do you need? Like, don't make a big deal out of things. And that's what I call tough love in our generation. That you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. It's not a big deal. But also you have to name it to feel it. So you have to name it to feel it, and you have to feel it to heal it. And those are the emotions. Sometimes they get numbed up, with the iPad, with the digital devices. Like, just watch an iPad. What if they're not feeling good? You need to give the child a chance to name that emotion in order to feel that emotion, in order to heal that emotion. But when we're numbing them by, it's like putting a screen in front of them, being so digitized, that numbs everything. And then you got a problem in the future because they don't know how to deal with it, because they're not going to be with you all their life. When they're on their own, they're going to say, like, what the heck is this package that I've been carrying along? It goes, nothing wrong with going into therapy, but this could have been minimized, could have been dealt with, so they can carry on in their, what are called life backpacks, the tools that they can actually soothe themselves, on their own without being panicked. It's like, oh my God, I need help. That's number one. Number two, that it's going to get them ready for life. Life is not a digital device. Although AI is going to take over, they're going to have circumstances, certain situations that you have to interact with a human being, right? So, and that's why you guys are doing such a great job. My last question to you, is there anything that, as a generation, amongst you guys friends, I mean, I'm sure you guys going through the same phase of life, is that also the concern amongst you guys, like as adults, with your friends, your best friend, his best friend, your brother, his brothers? Is that the same concern about the new generation or the world around you guys?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's definitely been a conversation. We are kind of at the beginning. We've been the front runners of our friend group and our families, for the most part, excluding my brother, in terms of like settling down, having a family. It's come up. My husband's brothers have asked a few times, like, how do you know that you're wanting to bring a kid into this world when this is the world that we live in? And it's just, you can only control so much, right? Like, there are some things that you can control and some things that you can't. And so you just have to do everything that you can do to help create a child that can navigate those situations, and hope that the world is able to be kind, or just give them the tools and their toolbox that they need to get through that. And it has come up. Our friends have kind of voiced that concern, and they've also stated how they want to grow their families and what that looks like, or even just the process of, everything being different, everything costing more money. How do you justify, having a child when the cost of living is so high, and what does that look like? How do you how do you make sure that you have things for yourself, but also be able to provide for a family? And I think that it's kind of been like, I think it's been helpful for them to see us be able to do things, because like, okay, it's kind of hard, but it's not that hard. Like it's manageable, it's doable, but it's really just, I think everybody always has that concern until they're doing it. And then once you're through it, you're like, okay, like I kind of understand what I'm doing. And then, a year passes by, you got a 1-year-old, and it's just, you're doing it. It's just still a concern. And part of the whole thing is, you were talking about like the life backpack, and you have to heal from your childhood in order to have a healed childhood for your kids, regardless of what it looked like. You could have a great upbringing. There's still something that happens, something outside of your control, and having to heal from that so they don't have to is part of it. And that's, I think, everything. I have to be kind in order to show her what it means to be kind in a world that, is challenging sometimes, or, this is what they see on the news because it's inevitable, because it's literally at every place you go, there's a TV on with something on. And just, it's a lot, but it's also, how can you can only control yourself. How can you control yourself in this situation? What can you do? And I think that our friends seeing us kind of go through this is certainly helpful. They're kind of trial running on our kid, the same way that we got to do on my nephews. Got to figure out like what works well, what doesn't, and like what we wanted to adapt parenting wise. And it's all just a learning.
No, that's true 100%. But you guys are setting up look at you guys set up an example, although within your small world, the circle of trust with your friend, you set up an example that this could be done. Like you said, it is doable. It's funny that you keep using the word kind. Giselle, when I interviewed her in so many episodes, we talked about the challenges, we talked about bullying in school, her son experience and all that. And I said, how is your son has the innate ability to brush it off and move on. She said, Dr. Slava, the only thing that I embedded in him, be kind. And you said exactly the same thing. And it seems like that is your generation motto, is to be kind and looking for a kind world, or building a kind world. And I said, where does that come from? She goes, my mom. My mom said it doesn't always taught them, all her sister and her brother, is don't ever judge anybody the way they look, the way they move, the way they live, the way they walk, the way they eat, whatever. Just be kind. But that builds accountability. Indirectly, that's what you are trying to teach your daughter, is to be accountable, is what you do by being kind. And the rest of it, if that person in front of you, or if the world does not react or respond the way you want it to respond, don't get confused about it, because they are accountable for that action. They're responsible for their action. We talk about this at work all the time. Be accountable. Building accountability is huge, I think, in order to help the world to be kind. If you are kind and he's kind and she's kind and they are kind, then before you know it, the majority is going to be kind. Yeah, you're going to have, some people that are a little bit off, but then you are going to reach to your goal to have a kinder world for your daughter, for sure. So we are reaching the end of our hour. My last question to you is, what is your advice to a young couple that are planning to be in the family way for today's world?
I would definitely say have the hard conversations first. My husband and I, like I said, we got to do a trial run on our nephews, which not everybody gets to do. But we got to see some of their childhood. And we got to kind of have conversations of like, oh, how would we have handled this situation? And have the conversations. It's not beneficial to say, oh, we'll deal with that when we get to it. Because what if you and your partner are like on very different pages about something? Like, you don't want to find that out when you're going through it and you're like, oh, kind of stuck with you now. Like, we have a kid. Like, it is very beneficial to be on the same page from the get-go. I've never understood why people don't have the conversation about having children until after they're married. It's a very big decision to make. And so is parenting. Parenting is it's a lot. Everyone wants to, be a perfect parent, but you can't necessarily do that if you're not on the same page. And there is no like good guy, bad guy that we've decided in our household. The rules are the same regardless of who you talk to. You may get a little bit more leniency with one over the other in like a specific situation, but not anything that like truly matters. We're not talking about like an extra cookie or talking about like fundamental things that truly matter. Being on the same page with your partner, having the conversations. It's going to sound so silly, but I pulled up something on Pinterest, and it was difficult conversations to have with your partner before you get married or before you have kids. And it's, how would you handle this situation? Do you believe in timeout? Do you believe in like X, Y, and Z? And if you're not on the same page, either get on the same page or figure out what that looks like. Because my husband and I are on the same page with I would say the majority of how we want to parent. I'm sure there are things that will come up as a case by case basis, but we didn't kind of just decide to fly by the seat of our pants. We had the conversations. It was difficult. It wasn't ever something that was fun necessarily to have, especially if we had a difference in opinion. We kind of debated it. We laid out where we were and why we were at that point on a certain subject. And one of us got on board, or, we changed the other one's mind based on like the information that we presented, and have the conversation. The communication is incredibly important, and don't wait for a hard situation to come up to do it. Have the conversations before, road trip it, pull it up on Pinterest and have the conversation. It kills time. It's certainly fun. We actually did that on our baby. We went through like different parenting things. We'd already talked about the majority of it, but there was like one or two.
Yeah.
But it's something that you can learn about your partner too, and always keep learning what they need, what they're looking for, and how you can support one another. And who you choose to be a parent to your child does matter, because during the first year, I guess, because we're still there, it does matter who you have as your partner. And you're not just picking your partner, you're picking your children's parent, and they deserve to have you make a good choice about that.
I'm gonna let you go. I know she's up, but that is fascinating because, like I said, you just tapped into three important things. Choose your partner. That's huge. I mean, that's just your style. Some people wing it and they're fine. My parents winged it and they're fine, but that's a whole different generation. But it worked for you because of your personality. Number two, Pinterest was the social media tool for you to give you the idea, but the finalizing the fundamental principles of how you're going to raise that child came from you guys, right? Pinterest would just inspire that idea. It's like, we need to have a conversation. And it's the same thing as opening a book. It has nothing to do with social media. Reading a book, or reading like a guide, going to a library or bookstore, it's the exact same thing, but it's digital, right? But that's what I'm talking about. It's a double-edged sword as far as social media, but it has huge benefits. I'm not downplaying the importance of social media, how fast information can be processed and how fast information can be delivered. But I have to say goodbye. So thank you so much, Taylor, for coming on. I hope you come on. I would love to have that intimate conversation about how you ended up working with us and just your view of the new generation professionals. So thank you so much, guys, for listening and watching. Remember, those episodes are uploaded weekly on Spotify and Apple, and you can watch them on YouTube on the Agreeing with Dental Partners. So please share, like, and hit the notification bell. That way you won't miss any episodes. And please support us. Remember, this Mindset Mastery Moment platform is not supported by millionaires or billionaires. We're just doing it for the sake of, like Taylor said, making the world a kinder and a better place. So I hope to see you next time. This is Slava, the Jordanian.